Just call Nate Oates General Schwarzkopf because he certainly was storming Mormons tonight. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Storming Norman Schwarzkopf. You didn't think that was going to be brought up again for a while.
You stunned me with that cold open. That was very SNL. That was, and it's so old. I mean, that's a 1990 reference.
That's an old reference.
It's a 1990 reference, but solid. That's good.
It's solid. There'll be some people going, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm so happy I don't care. All right, everybody, welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama Internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. Jimmy, we just witnessed one of the more incredible performances you can ever hope for. Now, I say we witnessed it. I didn't get to see none of it because I was driving back from the Atlanta airport, and McDonald's screwed up our order as they do every single time. And no offense,
it would have been infinitely cooler if you said you just drove back from the Dominican Republic.
That would have been a lot cooler.
That's a lot cooler to say.
But people know me, and I have some small children still, and they screwed up our order, and I had to go back and change it. So I didn't even get home in time to see the very end of it. But Alabama was absolutely on fire. I mean, that people use that term all the time. I think now it's got to be simply reserved for stuff like this. Going for 25 three-pointers, the old record was 21. What's weird is the old record was 21 back when the three-pointers hadn't been introduced that long. I mean, I think they got introduced in the 86-87 season, if I remember right. It may have been 85-86, but I think it was 86-87. And so the 1990 Loyola Marymount team, by the way, ironically, that beat Alabama in the Sweet 16, they had the record at 21. It seems like that should have fallen by now. But it hadn't. And then Alabama beat it. And, there was some talk that Alabama could beat it at half. I did listen to the national broadcast because I was listening to Sirius XM and I was coming from Georgia, obviously. And it was kind of cool to get that perspective of, I love Chris, and y'all know Chris and Brian are both friends of mine. They're great people. I'm really close with Brian, super dude. And so I love their radio broadcast. But it's interesting every now and again to get a national perspective, especially in a tournament like this. And they were just astounded. They were like, Alabama's got 12. There's no way they can have 12 three-pointers in the second half. That's poppycock. Why would you even bring that up? No, we didn't have 12. We had 13 in the second half. It's just ridiculous.
I really feel like, based on how big this game was, that this was the painting. I mean, Nate Oates he's the greatest coach in Alabama basketball history. And I apologize to Wimp Sanderson out loud when I say that, because no one could hold Wimp in higher regard than myself, who went to school during the Wimp era. I fell in love with college basketball because of Wimp Sanderson and that era. But Nate Oates is the all-time best coach in the history of Alabama basketball. And tonight, I feel like he signed the painting. Like, that was brilliant. The way Alabama played, the way they shot the ball, in the style he wanted to play on that platform. And I know there's still other games to go. This is the third Alabama Elite Eight in history, two of them courtesy of Nate Oates. Again, he signed the painting. It's like, were we there when, what's his name, Da Vinci signed the Mona Lisa at the bottom?
What's his name, like, Da Vinci?
What's his name? Yeah, it took me
Leonardo?
It took me a while because the painting thing is not my thing. And by the way, why is that such a big deal? Have you seen that painting? Why is that?
Frank Da Vinci.
I'm more impressed with dogs playing poker, I guess, than the Mona Lisa. It's not my thing. But I'm just saying, Nate Oates signed the bottom of the masterpiece tonight. The third Elite Eight in Alabama history. Nate did it with just unbelievable. I mean, just trash talking it down. Great. Mark Sears, couldn't be happier for him. For everyone that was like been criticizing Mark Sears all year or the last few games, what the heck are you guys ever talking about? He's the best basketball player in Alabama history while at Alabama. That to me is just decided. No one else has a claim to that. And tonight there was some real emphasis on that exclamation point.
Now, look, this had very little to do with the performance, if anything at all. And I think I'm leaning towards nothing at all. But Jimmy and I said, I think I brought this up and Jimmy concurred, that we saw so many people saying BYU is going to run roughshod over Alabama because Alabama plays no defense and Alabama's not shooting well and BYU super hot and they're kind of the fun team right now.
Barkley picked BYU to win on the broadcast before the game started.
Okay. And we saw there's some gambling sites that have, I guess, influencers that did this. And in fact, it got so comical to me that I was like, I wonder if some of these guys are doing it to pump up BYU numbers so that they can get Alabama at a better value. I swear to God, that's what I thought. And then we talked about how Sears has just not been himself. I mean, he's not hitting threes. He was something like 5 of his last 35 three-pointers. It's just not looking good. He's due. You can say that about anybody, but to be a true statement, it has to be about somebody who has done it before. Sears has done this, going on these runs before. He's just in a slump. And he's out of the slump. Now, will he remain out of the slump? I don't know. I certainly hope so. I'm kind of glad we took him out with 10 three-pointers, by the way, which is an Alabama NCAA record. He's one shy of the all-time NCAA record by that Fryer kid who also played for Loyola Marymount, who, by the way, that's what makes Alabama's even more impressive. That Fryer kid had 11 of Loyola's 21 back in 1990. So he had the majority. Now, Sears had the majority, but Youngblood and Aiden Sherrill and Aiden Holloway, they all had 3-point. I mean, we were bombing tonight. I mean, literally bombing.
Oh, yes. So true. Holloway, fantastic. Chris Youngblood, fantastic. Our guys underneath the basket that were rebounding the ball and kicking it back out, fantastic. That's what I'm saying. Tonight was the Nate Oates masterpiece. Now, BYU allowed a lot of this because they're not great on defense. They're really not. Even though they got this far in the tournament, BYU's not a superb defensive team. But they did allow Alabama to do the things Alabama likes to do, and Alabama just absolutely hammer to nail got it done. And Sears, Holloway, Youngblood, LeBaron Philon didn't score a ton of points, but he played well. No one in Alabama's uniform didn't play well. And the end result is the Elite Eight, third time in school history, back-to-back years in the Elite Eight. That sounds like a real Duke thing to do, which is funny because that's very likely the next opponent, although Duke and Arizona are playing right now, I think.
They are, and we will certainly talk about that tomorrow if we have a show, which I think we will. But I do want to bring this up. First of all, Greg Zachary said every time BYU started to make a run, then we answered back with a 3. That is so true. And the announcers that I was listening to caught on to that. They were like, every time BYU got to within 7, and I was like, dang it. And we had just screwed up something on our possession, and BYU comes down and hits a 3. I think maybe they got an offensive rebound off a missed 1-and-1 that led to that 3-pointer, if I remember right. And then Aiden Holloway comes down and he's splashed. I mean, he's just pure as the driven snow. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to tackle. I hit the wrong thing. That was actually a great point by that guy whose name I forget. Greg. But Matt Steele said he thinks Antonio McDyess is the best player in Alabama history. Okay, Matt, first of all, thanks for listening. I'm going to tell you that
that's a ball knower. That's a ball knower.
He's kind of right, but he's not right at all.
That's a ball knower in the sense that McDyess was the number 2 pick in the draft, and he was one of the all-time Alabama players. But McDyess did not accomplish more things at Alabama that Mark Sears has.
And in fact, Jimmy, I think you could say Brandon Miller is as good, is decorated, and maybe even more so than McDyess. McDyess caught on midway through his sophomore year and really in the SEC tournament of his sophomore year. And then he had one of the more dominating performances we've ever seen in the NCAA tournament. Again, ironically, against Yale, who beat Auburn last year. But Miller he's a freak of nature. And now McDyess is too. Sears isn't a freak. Sears is not, he's awesome. Don't get me wrong. He's not a freak, but he is a hard worker. He's also come through even a lot this year, where he's been through 2 games where he didn't score at all, 1 game where he didn't even play the second half because the coach was like, I'm not playing you. I mean, all the stuff he's been through and all the stuff he's accomplished makes me want to say Mark Sears is the best player in Alabama history, because I do think eventually it is a combination of, when people talk about Jordan versus LeBron James, and they say, well, Jordan, had this and he was more spectacular. But they say LeBron's got more points and more this and more that. Yeah, this is it can get wonky in that. But with Sears, the accomplishments are so stacked at this point. I love McDyess. I think McDyess is super cool. He was in school when I was in school. I loved him. Sears is the best player in Alabama history.
Sears is the best, most accomplished player. I mean, you can judge it based on talent and based on what they might do at the next level. And in that case, you're going to put Sears. I don't know that Mark's going to be drafted at all in June. He might not even be drafted in the 2nd round, whereas McDyess, I think, was a 2nd pick. And, Brandon Miller was, drafted that high. But Mark, in terms of what he's accomplished at Alabama, is far beyond what anyone else has. All-American, the points, the records, the scoring. What Mark's done at Alabama overshadows everyone else, in my opinion. And again, Mark can sign this painting just like Nate, but this was a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece, regardless of what happened Saturday against Duke. Masterpiece. Unbelievable.
Now, I'm going to go to break, but I want to say this. Shout out to all you guys out there. There are 390, almost 400 people watching a live show about a basketball game. I know it's Sweet 16. I know it's a big game. On a Thursday night at 9:23, 35, 40 minutes after the game was over, because I couldn't do an immediate reaction because I was still on the road. Shout out to you guys, because Jimmy and I have been here before doing these live reaction shows for basketball, and the high point might be 100 folks. And I learned to live with it, whereas football is so much different. Shout out to y'all. Let's all embrace. Let's not get mad at one another. Somebody on there said, don't apologize for talking basketball anymore. Forget the fogs. Football only gumps. Listen, man, let's all just be one big happy family. Because I'm going to tell you the first thing this guy's doing. This sunburned, very tired, sinus infection, Alabama-loving fool is going to do. He's going to look up prices to Newark, New Jersey on a Saturday. Soon as he gets, if I can ever get off this podcast, you can bet your sweet bottom that's what I'm going to be doing the first thing after I get done with this thing. There ain't no doubt about that. So let's talk a little Monarch Money first, though. Monarch Money would not be very happy with my decisions when it comes to Alabama stuff. I can tell you that'd be like, why are you doing this? I'd be like, that's got to be included in my budget going forward if Nate Oates is going to keep doing these things. But have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, yo. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off. What? Yeah, 50% off. Half off your first year of Monarch Money. And it's going to help you. But I would encourage you, don't start it until after Alabama gets done playing basketball. Otherwise, you're going to start out in the hole pretty good. Now let's talk a little Nissan. They probably won't like me saying that. I understand. But anyway,
we get a free Nissan? Do we get one?
I'm checking on it. I'm verifying.
Hope we do.
And it just came back. No, but we're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. When it comes to all-new Nissan Armada PRO-X4, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, you can quite literally carry the whole team, plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada PRO-X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or you're taking all your buddies to Newark, New Jersey, the Armada Pro-4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you want to go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro-4X. Learn more about it at nissanusa.com. Jimmy, tell them.
Come.
We practiced that.
I know. My brother's got a couple of. My brother's had 2 Nissans in a row. He's a big fan. My brother is a Nissan dude.
Hey, eight more Nissans, and he'll be the Mark Sears of owning Nissan. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the individual performances here.
They're all going to be pretty awesome, except defensively.
And I'm not sure. I'm going to start at a strange place. I'm going to leave Sears for the end because I think he deserves like all the flowers, right? I'm going to start with Chris Youngblood. You know what dawned on me? I think Chris Youngblood is more stealthy at being Chad Baker-Mazara than Chad Baker-Mazara is. Because here, let me tell you something. The national guys picked up on this, and I don't know if they did on TV. I don't know if y'all saw it on TV. I hadn't seen the replay. The national guys were like, every time there's a loose ball, every time there's officials going to review something for a flagrant this or a intentional that, Chris Youngblood's involved. Now, he may not have done anything. And in fact, on the flagrant 1 call against BYU, they said at first, they were like, well, Youngblood kind of did hit him in the face first, but his was less his was sort of in the moment of the play. Like you can see that happening. But what it did was cause a retaliation by the BYU guy. And then there was another situation later on where they came back and said, look, there's nothing there malicious, but he was just involved again. So my point is this. I think we're underselling how much Chris Youngblood gets under other players' skins. You know it?
He's physical, very physical, smart. I like how you use the word stealth. I think there's a lot of stealth there in terms of what he's trying to accomplish at times. Not a great defensive player. Not sure defensively he's got a great position on the floor. But the effort is there. The want to is there. The physicality is there. The shot is certainly there. I don't know that Alabama's in the Elite 8 without Chris Youngblood. I hope Alabama fans realize how incredibly valuable he is to Alabama's success. But yeah, I would get that. I mean, with anyone that says, hey, if there's some sort of a brouhaha on the floor, Chris Youngblood's going to be involved in it or instigating it, I'm not going to deny that. But I also don't think that it's so over the top that anyone's going to call him a dirty player. I think it's more strategic and maybe smart, but at the same time, physical. And maybe he's the other team's least favorite player. Maybe that's a fair thing to say.
Christopher A-Day, and again, I hope I'm saying that right, is what a name for an Alabama fan. My name is Christopher A-Day. I mean, why not be named Humphrey Namath A-Day Saban the Third? I mean, just what a name. But he says Youngblood just uses the elbow. Nothing wrong with it. Look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Well, there could be something wrong with that.
Well, there could be. But no, what I'm saying is I want to tell you, if you've ever played basketball, again, back when I was younger and I was not horrible, I remember I was having a good game against a team in the league we were playing in, and that one of their more like tougher players like he knew what kind of shot I had. I couldn't jump high, but I had this turnaround that like I would fade back and I had long arms and it was hard to block. And he couldn't block it. So what he did was he just pushed me to the ground because he knew I wouldn't be on balance. And what it did, it wasn't super dirty. It was like he sort of hit it with like, I'm going for the block, but if I push you, I push you. And what I'm saying is, like, it got me off my game. In that moment, I remembered that, like, and later on, I started drafting him when I had the ability to draft people. I was like, I'm drafting this guy because I know he's going to do those little things. And Youngblood is doing those little things. And what I mean by comparing him to Chad Baker-Mazara is not to insult him and say he's a dirty player. I think Chad Baker-Mazara takes it to another level and maybe has some anger things going on. But I think Chris Youngblood is sly. He's a wily veteran. He's a seasoned, wily veteran.
I like
That's
that.
what he is. Okay.
No, I like it.
Now, Aiden Holloway. Let me tell you something else about him. I don't know if we win. Now, we probably win without him, but I don't know. It dang sure ain't as pretty without Holloway. He sort of got things kicked off for us tonight.
He is. I think tonight he was exactly what I thought he might be, best case scenario, just a 3-point assassin. But I said all during the season where he surprised me was how good he was at everything else. But tonight he was the 3-point assassin.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I know Auburn fans, I know what they say, and it doesn't matter to me as much as it might to Luke or others, but I know Auburn fans say, well, the dude we brought in to replace him is even better than the Holloway. We don't care because Pettiford is so much better than Holloway. Okay. I just say as an Alabama fan, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your refuse.
It worked out for everybody.
If this is what you're saying is we'll throw him out. Thank you for that, because he is a big part of Alabama's Elite 8 success is Aiden Holloway. And again, showing tonight what I thought he might be kind of worst case scenario. He's actually a better all around player than what we saw tonight, because I'm telling you, that dude can D up a little bit. He's really good at attacking the basket, but tonight he just could not miss.
Jimmy, he drew a foul on somebody because again, I didn't get to see it. The announcer said it. And I think it was Jimmy Jackson who played at Ohio State. It was the color guy. But anyway, he said Holloway draws the foul because they looked at the replay and they're like, he was boxing out so well, the bigger guy got frustrated and now he shoved him down. So if you want to say Holloway is soft because he got shoved down by somebody much larger, okay, I don't think that's fair, but okay. But instead, what you should be concentrating on, he drew the foul on a big guy and got him frustrated, just like we're talking about Chris Youngblood getting people frustrated. Now, we got to go to Mark Sears before we run out of time, because he had 34 points. He was out of his mind. What I loved, I could tell the shot was going in before it went in. That's what I do love about listening to it on the radio, especially when it's not a home broadcast, because, the crowd, it seems like we have the mic maybe put somewhere that it doesn't allow this to happen if it's really loud. And they announced 19,000 people there. I saw the very beginning of the game. I don't know if there were 19,000 people there, but regardless, when Mark was shooting the ball, you could almost hear the way it left his hand. It was good. And the announcers knew it. They were like, here's Sears for another 3. Why not? Bang. Sears for another 3, count it. And then you would hear the splash. I mean, it was crazy. What a great level for him to be on. Now, I'll say this. My 8-year-old daughter found the game on her iPad in the back seat and was telling me, hey, she just got her hair braided, like while we were in the Dominican. She was like, hey, number 11, Omori, he's got hair just like me now. And I was like, yeah, that's what he did. He copied it after my 8-year-old daughter. And it's not like he's had this all year or anything. But she also said, oh, there's Sears' mama, because she loves to see her. And then they showed her celebrating one time. It was just fun. This is the most fun team left in the tournament. I'm not saying they're going to win it all. It's been the most fun team in the tournament, period. I'm not saying they're going to win it all. I'm saying that Alabama's a story now. I mean, we needed this to regain some national prestige. I looked through this morning. I saw two that of the CBS guys, like it was 50-50 on the picks. The ESPN guys, two of them picked BYU, one of them picked us. They just said BYU's got too much firepower and blah, blah, blah. And again, we make predictions that are wrong too, so I'm not killing these guys. I'm just saying that I think people had sort of started throwing dirt on Alabama and specifically Mark Sears a little too early.
It's the best Alabama has played in a while. Now, it's offensively. BYU isn't great on defense. The challenge Saturday is going to be immense. I'm assuming it's Duke. As we're recording this, Duke is playing Arizona. I don't even know what the score is. I don't care. But Duke is very likely to win that game. And Duke is, BYU is a hill. Duke is a mountain. And that's what you got to deal with Saturday. I'm just reveling in the fact that this is the third Elite Eight appearance for Alabama in history, and they didn't just sneak in the back door. This was a resounding, we are an elite basketball team. I love that they did it on Mark Sears' back, who had taken such criticism, even from Alabama fans over the past few games. And again, Nate Oates is the greatest basketball coach in Alabama history, and tonight I feel like he signed the painting. For if there's going to be a statue in front of Coleman with Nate Oates tonight, he signed his own statue. That was it. That's my
hey, look, if we get Frank Da Vinci, as you so eloquently called him earlier,
couldn't think of his name. I thought it.
Leonardo's brother Ralph Da Vinci, who could do a statue. Let's hope if they do it in the model of David, Michelangelo's David or something, let's hope that they make Nate Oates a little more well endowed. He deserves that.
He does. He does. And why did anyone decide that Mona Lisa is better than that painting of Kramer? The Kramer, the Cosmo, the Kramer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's art.
What was great about that episode, by the way, they had the two people back to back, and one of them was like, he fills me with energy and love, and he's vivacious. I can't remember exactly. The other guy was like, he sickens me. He terrifies me. And I was like, that's sort of true. And
then she was like, I love it. I've got to have it.
All right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We should be back tomorrow at some point. I've got to decompress, but we will be back at some point. Too excited not to be back. And I'm going to be looking for flights to Newark. But until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.